Brothers.
Yeah,
How about
Kawa.
Brother Mir, Shalom, King.
Shalom.
How y'all brothers doing tonight?
Hanging
Man,
tight. Sorry.
I sound
Cap,
excited.
the precept you talk. Cap, the precept and Ezra's. It was a second Ezra's or first Ezra's?
Second Ezra, Khan, second Ezra.
Chapter 6.
No, second Ezra, second chapter. Second chapter.
Salakia. The right one.
Elijah. Greg, got my book bag right there, please, Baba Kasha. Got my scripts. So we live. Shalom. The water. Appreciate you. All right, shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praises, all honor, all glory unto Yahweh. Bahashim Kakwadash. All right, we no cap, nations of kings and priests.
No cap.
Today, we're in for a treat, man. So y'all get your pens, y'all get your notepads. In the scriptures it says when Yahweh Shai speaks, he's Yahweh speaking through him, and a lot of what he spoke in parables, man. It's deeper than what religion puts in the surface. So today we're going to be going through the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, and I'm gonna let Shatar Ariyah take over from here. I want to give double honors to the elders of Masharah Yasharallah, brothers who have been laboring in this truth for over 30 years. Double honors to those elders. Salute to the Akim who labor in this truth as well, who's suffering, all right, who understand that until we come back to the law, statutes, and commandments and help wake up the elect, we're still going to be dying in the streets. We're still going to suffer. The white man knee is going to continue to be on our necks until we learn to change. So salute to you, brothers, all right? So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Ariyah. Shalom.
Shalom, your brother Ariyah Benyamin. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, Bahashim Ruach Hakadosh. So what we're going to bring out right now is Matthew chapter 5, right? Kat, let me get that precept when you can. So just recapping on Matthew, where we're at in Matthew, is the 5th chapter. It's the Sermon on the Mount, right? So the Messiah was born, baptized already. He already grabbed a few of his disciples, and now he already performed a few miracles as well. And now he's pretty much doing his first sermon on the mount on the mountain by Galilee, if I'm not mistaken, right? So he's talking to the multitude. So we have to understand that the multitude that he's speaking to at this context are other Jews and other Israelites, right? And Cap, read that when you got it.
Khan, this is the book of Second Ezra, chapter 2, and I'm going to start at verse 40. Take thy number, O Zion, and shut up those thine that are clothed in white, which have fulfilled the law of the Lord. The number of thy children, whom thy longest for, is fulfilled. Beseech the power of the Lord, that thy people that have called from the beginning may be hallowed. And I, Ezra, saw upon the mount of Zion a great people, whom I cannot number, and they all praised the Lord with songs.
Con. So somebody grab me Revelations chapter 7 and 9 real quick, just so we can show the concept of these people, right? Remember, the subject matter that we just read in Second Ezra is talking about Zion. They're clothed in white and they have fulfilled the law of the Lord, right? That's how it starts off, and then it starts talking about the children of Zion. So we're going to go now to Revelations to get the other precept, and we're going to show you who this multitude with these garments of pure holy garments on it, right? We're going to establish that, and then we're going to start breaking down the rest of Matthew. But we're going to lay some foundations first. So somebody get me Revelation 7 and 9. Read it when you got it.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 7, verse 9. After this, I beheld, and lo, a great multitude,
All
which
right,
no man could. Salah.
you good, King. So mind you, right? We just read about in Second Esdras that the same multitude, right? This is the same multitude that was prophesied by Isaiah. It's the same one being revealed by John, right? So read it again from the top.
After this, I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations.
So and here's the
And
problem: a lot of people assume that this means all nations, but they are ignorant to the fact that the Israelites were spread to four corners of the world, right? They were scattered abroad. If you read James 1:1, the letter of James starts off to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. So this is why it's referencing all nations, because we were spread to all nations. We're in America, we're in South America, we're in Africa, we're in Europe, etc. Right? So keep reading.
of all nations, and kindred, and people, and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, and palms in their hands.
And these are the same palms that was talked about in Second Ezra chapter 2 and verse 46. It's the same vision that they're getting, right? So now that you understand that these people clothed in white are the children of Zion, that ones that fulfilled the law, right? Now let's go to Matthew, and I'm gonna break that down when we start to read Matthew chapter 5. Because it's the concept of the multitudes you have to understand. So this multitude is the same multitude prophesied by Isaiah, the one the one the Messiah came and taught himself, and the one prophesied in the future in Revelations, right? So read Matthew chapter 5 from the top again. You're on mute, Tazadak.
Select. This book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 1. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him.
So the Messiah, right? Understand when we talk about mountains in scriptures, there's a symbolic form of mountains, right? You could talk about Mount Seir, right? Mount Seir, however you want to pronounce it, but it's talking about the mountain of Edom, right? The rulership of Edom. You could get Mount Zion, right, which is talking about the children of Israel. So understand, there's a multitude and a mountain now, right? Two symbolic terms for the children of Israel, right? So let's keep reading.
And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying.
All right. Now, who did the Messiah teach, right? Let's get John 18 and 20. Somebody grab that precept real quick, right? Because I'm gonna break this down to the bare bones and build it back up so everybody can see and understand what this parable is talking about from beginning to end.
Con. This is the book of John, chapter 18, verse 10. Salakia. The book of John, chapter 18.
18 and 20, King.
Con. Book of John, chapter 18, verse 20. Yahushua answered him, I spake openly to the world. I ever taught in the synagogue and in the temple, whether the Jews always resort.
So the people he taught were the Jews, the Israelites that were in the synagogue, that were in the temple, that he just referred to them as the world, right? So that's all I wanted on that, just to show who the Messiah was teaching. And you're not going to find teachings of him teaching all these groups of Gentiles. Every time he's teaching groups of Israelites, right? So now let's get back to Matthew 5 and let's get to verse 3.
This book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. And it says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
So now, who are the poor in spirit, right? We have to establish these things. Everything that we're going to give you today, we're going to establish it brick by brick by brick, so you can see that there's a firm and steady doctrine that we're teaching you, right? So let's get Isaiah chapter 66, and we're just going to read a few verses.
Con. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 66. We start at 1.
You can jump down to verse 2.
Verse 2. For all those things have my hand made, and all those things have been, saith the Lord. But to this man will I look, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit.
So it just said, right? Him that is poor of spirit, right? Let's jump up to
God.
verse 8 now. Let's see who it's talking about. This poor of spirit. Who's the people that this word is going to? Read verse 8.
Verse 8. Who hath heard such a thing? Who have seen such a things? Who have seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day? Or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travaileth,
As soon as
she
who
brought
travaileth?
forth Zion travaileth.
So the subject matter and who has this contrite spirit is Zion. If you're reading the context of Isaiah 66. So finish it out, King.
As soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children.
And we are the children of Zion, right? So we are the ones with this contrite spirit. Now that you understand who's the ones, when the Messiah was talking about the poor of spirit, Isaiah just testified who had the poor of spirit, right? So now let's go to Matthew 5 and 4.
Come on.
So I can read 3 again. Now that we got the understanding who are the poor of spirit, read verse 3 again, and then we'll go to 4.
Come on, this book Isaiah chapter 3.
It's like in Matthew 5 and 3.
Oh, so like it's book of Matthew chapter 5 verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
So unto you, Zion, is the kingdom of heaven. We're going to further prove that. Read verse 4.
It says, verse 4, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted.
So now, right, let's see who are the people that are in mourning, right? Because there's a time for people to mourn, there's a time to laugh, there's a time to dance, right? According to Ecclesiastes, right? So there's a time for things, there's a season for everything, right? So the children of Israel are right now in the time of mourning. So soon there's going to come a time when our Messiah comes back that we're going to be in the time where we're going to rejoice forevermore, right? And that those times are coming. This is why this world is collapsing as we know it. This is why your society is shutting down and collapsing. Your economic system is next, and then it's going to continue to spiral down till all those judgments get poured out, right? So now let's jump to verse. Let me get Isaiah 61. Let me get Isaiah 61, and let me get Numbers chapter 20.
God.
I need a verse 3 in Isaiah 61. Isaiah 61.
All right, God. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 3. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion.
That mourn where?
In Zion.
The Messiah just said in Matthew 5 and 4, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Read Isaiah 61 and 3 again.
To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion.
And this is actually prophesying about the Messiah. This is actually the prophecy of the gospel, showing you that the gospel was given to the children of Israel, to the children of Zion, and the Messiah is here testifying that he's coming to comfort them that mourn. This morning, those that are getting comfort is habitually Zion. Old, New Testament, it doesn't matter where you want to go. The scriptures have one steady logic, right? Let me get Numbers 20 and 29 real quick.
God. This book of Numbers, chapter 20, verse 25.
20 and 29, okay?
29.
It says, and when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, they mourned for Aaron 30 days, even all the house of Israel.
So again, from the beginning of the Bible, it's the children of Israel mourning. And even towards the end, it's the children of Israel mourning in modern days, right? Let's keep reading. Let's get to verse 5.
Come on. Verse 5. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
Again, right? So who are these meek? Let's see if the meek are the children of Israel as well. Let me get Psalms 20. Actually, let's get into the inheritance first, right? Because we have to understand who are these people that are supposed to inherit things according to the scriptures to begin with, right? So let's go back to the law. Let's go to Numbers chapter 36, and then I need Numbers chapter 32 as well. And while somebody's getting me Numbers, somebody get me Judges chapter 21. Because we have to understand the concept of the inheritance and how this works biblically before we move forward. Because not everybody's eligible for everybody's inheritance, right? For example, the tribe of Levi, they weren't given an inheritance, right? That would be against the law for the children of Levi, the tribe of Levi, to have an inheritance, right? Their inheritance was to be to serve the Most High and take care of the temple service. So everybody has a lot of inheritance in the Bible. This whole concept of the Christian Catholic Church is not part of the inheritance goes against biblical principles, and we're going to display that to you right now. Let me get Numbers 36, and let's read from verse 4.
Con, this is the book of Numbers, chapter 36, verse 4. And when the Jubilee of the children of Israel shall be, then shall their inheritance be put unto the inheritance of the tribe whereunto they are received, so shall their inheritance be taken away from the inheritance of the tribe of our fathers.
Keep reading.
And Moses commanded the children of Israel according to the word of the Lord, saying, the tribe of the sons of Joseph, he hath said well.
Let's jump down to verse 7.
Verse 7. So shall not the inheritance of the children of Israel remove from tribe to tribe. For every one of the children of Israel shall keep himself to the inheritance of the tribe of his fathers.
Jump down to 9.
Verse 9. Neither shall the inheritance remove from one tribe to another tribe.
So if the inheritance can't move from one tribe to another tribe, how does it move from one nation to a group of heathen nations? That doesn't make any sense. If you're not from the tribe of Judah, you cannot take land from the tribe of Judah, and vice versa. So if that's a biblical law when it comes to internally within the nation of Israel, how can that law therefore be changed when it's applied to people externally that are not even a part of the nation of Israel? That doesn't make any logical sense, right? So we're just showing you that the concept of the inheritance is not a transferable thing from one tribe, one nation to another. It's from father to son. That's how the inheritance works in biblical times. That's how inheritance works today. It's just a Western concept that thinks you can go take somebody's land and give it to somebody else for an inheritance. That's a modern day concept. That's not a biblical concept. So let's get back to Matthew. Where did we leave off? Salakia. Let me get Numbers 32 and 18.
God.
This book of Numbers, chapter 32, verse 18. It says, we will not return unto our houses until the children of Israel have inherited every man his inheritance.
So again, right, this is just driving the point home. Somebody has to mute their mic. This is driving the point home that the children of Israel are the ones that the inheritance pertain to, right? Now let me get Judges 21 and 17 if somebody got that. Judges 21.
I got you, King. This is Judges 21, said 17.
Con.
And they said there must be an inheritance for them that be escaped of Benjamin.
There must be an inheritance. Not that we want to be. There must be, because they understood that the children of Israel, by law, by God's holy law, they had to get the inheritance. Keep reading.
That a tribe be not destroyed out of Israel.
And they're showing you that the tribes of Israel have never been destroyed. We have always been here. We have been deceived, confused, mistreated, miseducated, right? But we've never been destroyed. That's just a lie, and it goes contrary to the word of the Most High God, right? So now let's get back to Matthew, because now that we understand how the inheritance work, right? Let's see who the meek are according to the scriptures. Before we get to Matthew, let me get that precept in Matthew, Salakia, Psalms 25 and 9. Because now that we dealt with the inheritance, right? Who the inheritance pertains to. Now we're gonna
Con.
deal with who the meek are according to the scriptures. I wanna Psalms 25 and verse 9, and then read verse 22.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 25, verse 9. Everybody can hear me, right?
Con.
The meek will he guide in judgment, and the meek will he teach his way.
So his ways are the Torah, right? The law, statutes, and commandments. That's the ways of the Most High God that he's going to teach. And the only people he's taught his law, statutes, commandments to are the children of Israel, right? Jump down to verse 22 so we can see who is the subject matter about.
Verse 22. Redeem Israel, O Yahweh, out of all his trouble.
So even the Psalms teach that the redemption and this meek people are the children of Israel. These are the ones that need to be redeemed out of all their troubles. This is the one that the Messiah came to fulfill. These are the ones that the Messiah is coming to redeem, right? It's the children of the Most High God, the children of Israel. Let me get Psalm 76 real quick. Because Psalm 76 goes really deep into this whole meekness. And once you dig into that, you start to see who the meekness pertains to. So
this is the book of
start from the top. Yeah, okay.
Start at
Psalm
1.
We're gonna jump around a few verses, but yeah, we'll start at 1.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 76, verse 1. In Judah is Yahweh known. His name is great in Israel.
So we just said, right? The only people that the Most High was teaching was the children of Israel. They're the only ones that knew him. Keep reading.
In Salem also is his tabernacle, and his dwelling place in Zion.
So his dwelling place is in Zion, right? Jump to verse 6.
Verse 6. At thy rebuke, O Yahweh of Jacob, both the chariot and horses are cast into a dead sleep.
Jump down to verse 9 now.
Verse 9. When Yahweh arose to judgment,
so the judgment, so the Most High wrote when the Most High arose to judgment, right? Keep in mind judgment, right? The Most High's judgment, God's judgment. Read.
To save all the meek of the earth.
So when the Messiah is talking about these meek that are going to be saved, that they're going to be blessed, that they're going to inherit the earth, it's the same one that David was talking about in the Psalms. There's no difference. There's a steady, thorough logic that we're going to keep displaying to you through the entire chapter, right? So now let's jump down to verse 6.
John. This book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 6. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness.
Salaki, I'm gonna read one more precept, right? Just to show you that the Psalms, you get a lot of wisdom from reading these Psalms, Proverbs, and these words of wisdom, right? You'll get a lot of enlightenment from these. This Psalms 37 and verse 11. But the meek shall inherit the earth and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. And if you read third through Psalms 37, you'll see that the subject matter is talking about, again, the children of Israel. These are the ones that can inherit the earth, right? So let's jump back to, I just wanted to bring that last precept out. Let's go back to Matthew. Let's read that verse again from the top.
Come on. This book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 6. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled.
So what was the righteousness that we should have that hunger and be thirsty for, right? Somebody get me Deuteronomy 6 and 25, right? Because everybody's thirsty for the wrong things, right? Let's see what we're supposed to be thirsty for. Let's see what our righteousness actually is according to the scriptures. Read it.
So like here, this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 25. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before the Lord our Yahweh, as he hath commanded us.
That is the righteousness that the Messiah is teaching. That's the righteousness you're supposed to be thirsty for. You're supposed to have the faith in the Messiah and chase these laws, keep these laws to the best of your abilities, right? And repent wherever you fall. So let's get to this next verse. Where we at?
Hey,
Verse 7?
yeah. Real quick, Salakia, just to land me back what you're saying. What we should be hungry for, right?
Come
And, what did the Messiah also use when he was battling his temptations, right? So the book of Matthew chapter 4. I'm gonna share my screen right quick. So this is Matthew chapter 4 and verse 4. But he answered and said, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yahweh." Right? And we know
That's
that
right.
Yahweh is this Bible. Where is he quoting from? He's quoting from Deuteronomy, right? So we understand that the what we got to be hungry for is this truth, this word. We got to be in an immense fire for this truth and hungry for the word, man. You know?
Come.
Khan, go ahead.
Throw it a cup. But yeah, but this is full circle. You can go to any book, chapter, verse in the Bible, and it's gonna always have the same sentiment. It's to have the faith in the Messiah and just to keep these laws. It's not a bad thing to tell somebody to be a moral and decent and a lawful human being. That's a good thing to want to aspire to. So where do we leave off at? Verse 7?
Con.
Verse 7. And it says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy."
So again, right? Who did the Bible prophesy will obtain mercy, right? Somebody get me Isaiah 14 and somebody get me Galatians 6. Because we're going to actually, Cap, can I get Galatians 6 in the blue letter? I need 6 and 16 in that blue letter. And then somebody get me 2 Peter, Slack 1 Peter 2 and 9. Let's bring up Isaiah 14 and 1. Somebody got it.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob.
Mercy on who?
On Jacob.
Matthew 5 and 7 says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." Read Isaiah 14 and 1 again.
For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob.
This is who the Messiah was talking about. Keep reading.
And will yet choose Israel. Salaki.
You go, King. So this is who the mercy pertains to, right? Let me get 2 Peter 2 and 9 real quick. Whoever got that.
This book of 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 9.
We're reading up to 10, King.
It says, "The Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished."
Slaki. You want 1 Peter or 2 Peter?
2 Peter.
First Peter 2 and 9.
This is the book of 1 Peter, chapter 2, verse 9. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood.
The funny thing is, Slaki, if you read that, I want that 2 Peter like in the NLT or the ESV, because when you read it in one of these translations, it gets very particular on what that actual word means for that when it talks about the peculiar people, right? That chosen race. In other translation, it literally tells you they're a chosen race. By verbatim, it says race in that, right? I want to get it so people don't think I'm just making it up, but if you read it, I want to say in the NLT or the ESV, it'll literally tell you it's a chosen race. The Greek word comes out to genos, which you get the word genealogy from, or your genes, right? So your chosen gene, your chosen seed line is what that verse is talking about. So read it again from the top.
This is the book of 1 Peter, chapter 2, verse 9. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation.
The nation of Israel, read.
A peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness. Keep going.
Yeah, we're reading up to verse 10.
Okay. Into his marvelous light, which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of Yahweh.
So the chosen generation, that chosen race, right? That peculiar people that Deuteronomy taught you was the children of Israel, right? That's who is talking. That's who Peter's talking about. And then the Messiah is talking about mercy, right? So let's see who's going to get mercy according to Peter. Keep reading.
Which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Oh, praise you.
And this is the same people they're talking about. Peter is the apostle to the Jews, not to the Gentiles. So when he's talking to this, he's talking to other Jews, other Israelites, right? Paul is teaching quote unquote Gentiles, but those are Israelites from the northern kingdom and some of the southern kingdom that are so far gone in the Greek culture and diaspora that they think they're actually Grecians. But now let's get back to Matthew chapter 5 and let's get 8.
Comes book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God.
So then if you want to be one that's pure in heart and you want to see God, how do you obtain such a thing, right? How do you become pure in heart? Does the Bible give you an example of somebody that's pure in heart, right? So let's get to the book of Job real quick. Let me get Job 1 and 8, and then I want to jump to Job chapter 19. I still need that Galatians cap. I don't forget about Galatians 6.
Con, I got it up. I just want to highlight Matthew 5 since you're going to be going back there.
Con. Yeah, somebody read Job 1 and 8 for me.
This is the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 8. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that fears God and eschewed evil.
So it's just showing you, right? No, you good, King. So I brought that out right to show Job was a perfect man. He was a pure in heart type of man, right? So let's get Job 19 and 26. Because remember, right? He said the pure in heart shall see God. So Job is called a perfect man because he kept all God's law, statutes, and commandments, right? So let's see if Job had the mindset that if he's going to see God. Read Job 19 and 26 when you got it.
Con.
Chapter 19, verse 26. It says, and though after my skin worms destroy his body.
Because your body's going to be destroyed, right? We're men. We live and we die, right? Read.
Yet in my flesh shall I see God.
So Job's going to see God. He understands this because he's walking with, he's keeping his law, statute, commandments. He's keeping that bond and that covenant with the Most High, right? Just showing you the people that see God are the ones that are pure and perfect in heart. When the Messiah says, be ye therefore perfect, he's telling you to keep these laws. That's how you aspire to perfection with the Most High, right? If you understand that sin, breaking the laws, is what taints you, is what pollutes you, is what defiles you, then the opposite must sanctify you and cleanse you and keep you clean, which means keeping the sins off you, meaning keeping these laws, statutes, commandments in you is what's going to help you and save you. So let's get where we select the cap. Let me get a Galatians 6 and 16 on the blue letter before we move on.
You said 6 and 16?
6 and 16, Galatians 6 and 16 in the blue letter.
Okay.
Because I'm still driving this point home where it says, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy, right? So some people want to bring out Paul and say Paul's ministry taught something different, right? So let's see what 6 and 16 says in Paul's letter. Can we get that open in the blue letter? And we're gonna read it as it was actually written.
Shalaki, I got a precept at the about the topic.
Okay.
Con, where do you want me to go?
So when you read it from the top, right, it says certain words aren't really there. So when you scroll down, when it says Israel at the end, so you see it says mercy, right? And then it says God, and then scroll down. So it's saying it's really talking about mercy upon Israel when you read it carefully. When you break these words down, when you read it in the KJV, it reads a little weird, right? Let me see if I can just pull it out from my KJV real quick.
You want to check it in the NIV?
Khan, let's see how it breaks down in NIV. Because I'm gonna read it in the KJV, right? It says, as many as walk according to this rule, peace be on them, and mercy. Subject matter that we were just talking about in Matthew was the mercy, right? And upon the Israel of God. But that's the way it reads in the KJV, but what it really just says is just talking about for mercy to be on the children of Israel, right? So this is why I'm bringing Galatians up, to show that Paul had the same concept of mercy on the children of Israel. Let's get back to Matthew chapter 5.
Come
Man,
Somebody get me 1 John chapter 3, because now the most Yahweh Shai is going to start talking about. He talks about. I want to say he says blessed 8 times in this chapter, right? And we're going to show every time he says blessed, right? Which, if you look up the Hebrew word for blessed, it should be something to the word of Asherah or Asherah, something to that effect. But what it's trying to say is fortunate. You're blessed. You're fortunate to be of these people. You're fortunate to be a child of Israel, because you couldn't choose to be an Israelite. The Most High made you an Israelite. So you're fortunate to be of the seed line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's a blessing from birth. And that blessing from birth comes with a birthright. But that birthright comes with some stipulations to it. You're not going to be a spoiled brat running around breaking every law, statute, commandment, and inherit the kingdom without any type of judgment. So what the Most High sent his son to do was teach us how to inherit the kingdom in righteousness, not in wickedness. And that's what we're out here teaching our brothers and sisters today, right? So let me get somebody hold 1 John chapter 3. We're going to read from 4 to 10, but somebody read Matthew 5 and 9.
Con.
This book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God.
All right. So everybody thinks that everybody's going to be the children of God, all right? I'm going to read a precept real quick, and then we're going to jump to another precept from the same person. This is John, the same one that wrote 1 John, right? There's the Gospel of John, chapter 11 and verse 52. And not for that nation only, but also that he should gather together in one the children of God, which were scattered abroad, right? So who are these children scattered abroad? Somebody get me James 1:1. But before we get to James 1:1, let's read John, 1 John chapter 3.
Verse 1 or verse 4?
Start from verse 3.
Verse 3. This is the book of 1 John chapter 3, verse 3.
So like jump just down to 4. Jump down to 4.
All right, verse 4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law. For sin is the transgression of the law.
Now jump down to verse jump down to verse 9.
Verse 9. Whosoever is born of Yahweh doth not commit sin, for his seed remaineth in him, and he cannot sin, because he is born of Yahweh.
So read the next verse. Yeah, keep reading.
And this, the children of Yahweh are manifest.
So this is how you know you're the children of the Most High God, right? Read.
And the children of the devil, whosoever doth not righteousness is not of Yahweh. neither he that loveth not his brother.
So if you're not keeping these law, statutes, commandments, because that is a Levitical law, right? Loving your brother as thyself. That's not a New Testament concept. That's the Messiah reiterating his Old Testament law, or what the Christians called Old Testament law. It's the same God that gave the law to Moses. It's the same God that came to teach you on the Mount, the Sermon on the Mount, Salakia. It's the same God, right? So you have, once you understand this, he's not teaching you two different doctrines. He's teaching one consistent doctrine. The Christian Catholic Church is trying to teach you a separate doctrine. But when I went here to show you is so like let me grab Matthew 5 back. Who are the children of God, right? The children of God are the ones that are keeping these law, statutes, commandments, right? Let me get let's go to verse 10. Matthew 5 and 10.
Come. This book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 10. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So
you good king. So who in the context of the Bible have been persecuted, right? You got Stephen in the book of Acts get persecuted, right? He was the first martyr. But let's see who the concept, even to the early church fathers, right? The early apostles, the ones that actually work with the Messiah. Let's see who their concept of the kingdom of heaven belonged to. Somebody give me Acts 1 and 6. Because when you get into the book of Acts chapter 1, this is after the death, burial, and resurrection. This is right before the Messiah ascends up to heaven, right? And his apostles ask him one last question before he goes. Let's see what this one last question, after all the lessons they got from the Messiah, after watching all his miracles, after everything that happened in the gospel, that these were the eyewitnesses to this gospel. Let's see what their understanding of the kingdom of heaven was right after all of this. Let me get Acts 1 and 6.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 6. And when they, therefore, were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom of Israel?
So the kingdom that they were waiting for is the kingdom of Israel. This is the kingdom of heaven. Heaven and Israel, when God says Israel's my footstool, that makes Israel heaven. That's where the Most High is. So what you understand this biblical concept that the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of heaven are synonymous terms, you'll start to understand what's going on, right? Now let's jump back to let me get Isaiah 51 and 16. I'm gonna grab some more precepts to drive this point home.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 51, verse 16. And it reads, And I have put my words in thy mouth, and I have covered thee in the shadow of my hand, that I may plant the heavens and lay the foundation of the earth.
So let's see who he's talking about when he's talking about the heavens. Keep reading.
And say unto Zion.
Unto who?
Unto Zion.
Keep reading.
Thou art my people.
Keep reading.
Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem.
That's all I want. That's all I want. Okay, this is showing you that the concept of the nature of heaven and that conversation when the Most High is talking about heaven, when Yahweh is talking about heaven, is always talking about the kingdom of Israel, the children of Israel, the children of Zion. This is a consistent thing over and over and over again. Somehow our forefathers missed this when they were in slavery, right? When they were dealing with Jim Crow, dealing with this oppressive slave system that we call Babylon the Great, right? They lost all this, but thankfully the Most High God has given us this wisdom, this knowledge, and understanding in these times, and we're out here bringing it out to you. Let's get back to Matthew chapter 5, and let's go to verse 11.
This book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 11. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake.
So the same way Stephen was persecuted, right, in Acts chapter 7, he was blessed. It wasn't. People think that the persecution that physically, yes, it was harmful, right? But spiritually, it was a blessing like no other, right? He got to see the son sitting at the right hand of the Father, and he was received by the Father, right? That was a blessing. Let's get to verse 12.
Verse 12. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you.
So the Messiah is saying that they persecuted the prophets that were before you. Who is the you that he's talking about? Somebody give me 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse 20. And then somebody else get me Nehemiah 9 and 26. So when the Messiah is talking, right, we're gonna show you even at the end of this contextual part of the Matthew chapter 5, right? That he's talking this whole from the beginning, he's talking to the multitude, right? We showed that the multitude was talking about the children of Israel from 2nd Ezra 2 and 40 up to like verse 46 or something like that. Then we showed you who the poor in spirit were, right? In Isaiah.
This book of 1 Kings chapter 19 verse.
So like don't bring it out yet, King. Give me 1 second. Then we showed you who the. Can you hear me, King?
Gone.
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Blessed. So we showed you who the poor in spirit were. We showed you who the mournings, who the people that were in mourning. We showed you who the meek were. We showed you who were the hungry and thirsty and what they should be hungry for. The pure in heart, how to be pure in heart. We showed you who the children of God was, who get persecuted for this truth, right? Because my brothers to this day still get persecuted by cops in the street to preach this truth, right? And now we're showing you that he's still talking to them. And he's saying, before you were prophets persecuted, right? So somebody give me read 1 Kings 19 to 10.
God's book of 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 10. And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts. For the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword.
What did the children of Israel do?
Slain thy prophets with the sword.
So when he's saying slain thy prophets which were before you, the you is the children of Israel. This message, this Sermon on the Mount was to the children of Israel. This is who he's preaching to. Somebody get me Nehemiah 9 and 26. Read it if you got it.
John, this is the book of Nehemiah. You said chapter 9 and 26, right?
9 and 26.
Yeah, 9 and 26. Book of Nehemiah, chapter 9, verse 26. And it reads, Nevertheless, they were disobedient and rebelled against thee, and cast thy law behind their backs.
Who do you think Nehemiah is talking about? Who cast the law behind their backs? It's the children of Israel. Keep
That's
reading.
right. And slew thy prophets.
So when the Messiah is talking, he's saying when they slew the prophets before you, again, there's another testimony showing that the prophets were slain before the children of Israel. So the concept and the person and the people that the Messiah is talking about is the children of Israel. That's all I want, just to demonstrate who was being slain, who the prophets were slain before, right? Just substantiate who the Messiah is talking about in this verse. Let's get 5 and 13 now.
Come on. This book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. And it says, Ye are the salt of the earth.
All right, Slakia. So do you think everybody's the salt of the earth? Do you think everybody has flavor? Salt adds flavor to things, right? It takes something that's bland and it gives it some little some excitement to it, right? Otherwise, it'll be something that you probably wouldn't want to eat. So let's get some precepts, right, on the concept of salt biblically. Let me get Leviticus chapter 2 and Numbers chapter 9. Because we're going to demonstrate who the salt is, right? He said, ye are the salt of the earth. So let's see who the salt is so we can get the contextual understanding, and then we'll break everything else down afterwards. Let me get Numbers 9:18 first, if you got it.
You said Numbers 9 and 18?
Con.
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 9, verse 18. And it reads, At the commandment of the Lord, the children of Israel journey, and at the commandment of the Lord they pitch. As long as the cloud abode upon the tabernacle, they rested in their tents. And when the cloud
Slack it, King, slack it.
Mhm.
That is not the precept I wanted.
So while y'all
Slack it.
right quick, just share my screen right quick. You said no salt.
I got a precept pull out. Somebody get you can bring that out, Cap. Somebody give me Leviticus 2 and 13. And,
No, I just want to show the picture. I just showed it.
Potato?
No flavor, no color, nothing.
Kill the potato, man.
Let me bring out a precept.
Oh, Con, bring it out, Con. Bring it out.
This is Mark 9. Mark chapter 9, verse 50. Salt is good, but if the salt have lost his saltness, wherewith will you season it? Have salt in yourselves, and have peace one with another. Just explain, going into how Israel is the salt of the earth. We're the only ones that specialize at everything we do. And then they say have peace one to another, going into the law where we're supposed to love one another as brethren.
Salaki, what precept was that?
Mark 9 and 50.
Yeah, Mark 9 and 50. All right. The water.
And then the precept I wanted, it wasn't Numbers. It was Numbers 18 and 19. 18 and 19.
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 18 and 19. Right? 18 and 19.
All
right, and it reads, all the heave offerings of the holy things which the children of Israel offer unto the Lord.
Subject matter, children of Israel, right? Read.
Have I given thee, thy sons and thy daughters with thee, by a statute forever. It is a covenant of salt.
A what?
Of salt.
Who was given any type of covenant of any sort? The children of Israel. The covenant of salt is talking about when the Messiah is talking about you are the salt, right? He's talking about Torah teachings, and you would have to understand the Torah to fully understand what the Messiah was talking about. Finish that up, King.
Forever before the Lord unto thee and to thy seed with thee.
And the covenant went to the children of Israel, which brought down the covenant to us today, and we're trying our best to live this covenant out, right?
Leviticus 2 and 6.
2 and 13 Leviticus, 2 and 13.
This book of Leviticus chapter 2 verse 13. Every obligation of thy meat offering shalt thou season with salt. Neither shalt thou suffer the salt of the covenant of thy God to be lacking from thy meat offering. With all thine offerings thou shalt offer salt.
So with all thine offerings, right? You have to understand the concept of salt and the offering, they go hand in hand. Like when our Messiah, the offer, right? The sacrificial lamb that was offered up for our sins, right? Guess what went with that sacrificial lamb? The salt. The children of Israel. We were part of that sacrifice, right? We were supposed to be crucified with him. So when that lamb was destroyed, the salt on the lamb was supposed to be destroyed with it. We were supposed to be destroyed, but he took the crucifixion for us. He took that damage for us. He took that pain for us, right? But generally, when you understand the concept of the offering and salt, they go hand in hand the same way the Messiah and the salt of the covenant, the salt of the earth, the children of Israel go hand in hand. Now let's jump back to Matthew chapter 5.
This book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden down under foot of men.
Keep reading.
Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid.
So who's this city that the Bible has always been talking about, right? Somebody give me Isaiah 52:1. Because the concept of the city, right, is something that you have to understand. I've shown you every verse since we started this chapter. He's hinting towards Israel habitually. It's undeniable at this point. We've been teaching for an hour, the same chapter, and showing you point by point by point by point by point that the Messiah is only talking to the children of Israel. That's who his gospel is for. So give me Isaiah 52:1. Read it when you got it.
Con,
Go ahead.
this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 52, verse 1. Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city,
The holy what?
the holy city.
So when the Messiah is talking about a city that is set on a hill that cannot be hid, who is the city? It's the same holy city, Zion, Jerusalem. This is the city the Messiah is talking about. Keep reading.
For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean.
Right? So everybody's going to be pure, right? Keep reading.
Shake thyself from the dust. Arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion.
Con. And this is
There you go.
who would preach to. Yeah, Con. We're going to keep reading. This is who would preach it to, right? The captive daughters of Zion, right? The children of Israel. Keep reading.
For thus said the Lord, ye have sold yourselves for naught.
Because the way we sold ourselves, right, by committing the sins, we understood that the Most High gave us a law. We understood Deuteronomy 28 and 68. We understood that God is not a God that lacks, that his word does not come back void. He's not playing around. Like he when he says something, he means that. He means exactly
That's
what he says.
right.
So when he told us he's going to put us in chains if we keep breaking his laws, he's going to put us back in slave ships and send us to a land that we never knew of. He meant that. But what do? We continually and habitually broke these law, statutes, commandments. So then we literally walked into the ass whooping. We walked into that punishment. We sold ourselves into this slavery. Keep reading.
Ye shall be redeemed without money.
And this is another cut, right? When Christians go to Deuteronomy 28, 68, and they talk about the redemption, you have to understand the concept of a Hebraic redemption, right? The redemption was that I can redeem my brother, my kinsman, right? Somebody was kin to me from an oppressive state, right? This is a biblical Torah law. So now let's go back to Matthew, where we left off at 5 and 15.
Con.
Yeah, I can read it, King.
This is book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 15. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bush, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let
Keep
your
reading.
light so shine before men, that they may see your good works.
That they can see a good what?
You'll get your good works.
So we're gonna figure out what these good works are, right? Because they're part of the light. To let your light shine, you have to let it, your light shining is gonna let men see your good works, right? So let's see what this light is, right? Somebody give me Proverbs 6:23. We're gonna see what this light is, right? And how it is associated with good works, right? Read that verse again from the top, Taz.
Come. It says, neither, verse 16.
Come on, read it again from the top, and we're gonna get Proverbs 6:23 right after.
Come. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven.
Now, somebody give me Proverbs 6:23. Read it if you got it.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 6, verse 23. For the commandment is a lamp,
Mm-hmm.
and the law is light.
What's light?
And the law is light.
Read Matthew 5 and 16 again.
God, let your light so shine before men.
Let your obedience to these law, statutes, and commandments shine so brightly. So when you're out in restaurants and offered all these type of abominations, turn it down. Let your light shine before men. When you have the chance to do wickedly before men, choose to do the righteous and biblical and the thing that was commanded unto you. Choose that. That is how you let your light shine. Not by being in wickedness, which is aka being in darkness. That's how you cast yourself into darkness, maintain the darkness, and spew forth darkness. When you're not shining the light, when you're not keeping these law, statutes, and commandments, you're pushing out darkness. So now that we understand what the light was, and now you understand what the works are, let's keep reading, right? 5 and 17.
God, think not that I come to destroy the law.
Think not that I came to destroy the light that I gave you, the law, the light. Think not that I came to destroy that. Read.
Or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
So I dealt with this in the street the other day. We'll deal with it right now. We're going to understand what this means because a lot of Christians harp on this little scripture here and take it out of context to do the most wicked things on the earth, right? So somebody gave me Numbers 24 and somebody gave me Acts chapter 3. I need Acts 3 and 18, Numbers 24 and 17. Because we're going to show you just real quickly how everything has not been fulfilled. So that can't be what the Messiah is talking about. Read Numbers 24 when you got it.
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 24, verse 17.
Acts 3 and 18 afterwards.
Come. And it reads, I shall see him, but not know. But Salakia, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh.
So this is
There
read it a little slower.
Salakia.
There's the prophet Balaam, right, having a prophecy about the Messiah, right? So this person that he's going to see, but not now, is the Messiah. He's having a future vision of the Messiah. Read.
Come. But not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob.
That bright light, right? The bright light is a star in the heavens, right? That bright light in the darkness, the star of Jacob is the Messiah. Read.
And a scepter shall rise out of Israel.
A scepter is a rod of rulership. If you ever seen, if you ever played the playing cards, right? And you see like the king and the queen of spades, and they have a little like a wand, a staff looking thing in their hand, that's a scepter, right? So a staff of rulership in his hand. Again, hinting and showing you it's talking about the Messiah. Read.
And shall smite the corners of Moab and destroy all the children of Sheph.
So the Messiah, we just showed you that this is talking about the Messiah, but he did not come and smite the corners of Moab, nor did he destroy the children of Seth, right? Keep reading.
And Edom shall be a possession.
Edom shall be a possession, but the Messiah didn't come do this in the gospel. That means when he comes back, he has to fulfill this law. This has not been fulfilled. It needs to be fulfilled, and it will be fulfilled when he returns. This is how you know that everybody can't be saved, because Edom has to be a possession. Read.
Seir also shall be a possession for his enemies. And Israel shall be valiantly.
So Israel's going to be the ones that do valiantly, right? After this type of destruction that goes across the world, when nations are getting put into captivity, when nations get destroyed, utterly wasted, Israel's going to be doing valiantly in this after all this tribulation that happens, right? But they're just showing you that these things did not come to pass, meaning all has not been fulfilled. So when the Messiah says, I come not to destroy the law, but to fulfill, he didn't fulfill that yet. That is in his second coming that will be fulfilled. And that shows you all has not been fulfilled. The things that were fulfilled were the things that were prophesied of his suffering. That suffering servant that was prophesied in the scriptures, that was fulfilled. When they would rip his clothes, when they would stripe his back, and all those things were fulfilled, right? Now, I'm going to prove that with Acts 3 and 18. Read it if you got it.
Chapter 3, verse 18. But those things which the Most High before had showed by the mouth of all his prophets, that Christ should suffer, he have so fulfilled.
So the suffering, that's what was fulfilled by the Messiah, right? Because we just demonstrated that there was something that was definitely talking about the Messiah, but that was not fulfilled. So now let's go back to Matthew. We're at verse 18.
God, it's the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, till heaven and earth pass,
And we all know heaven and earth is still here, right? Read.
That's right.
one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law.
That's like saying not one jot, a jot and a tittle. That's the dots on top of your eyes. And when people say cross your T's and dot your I's, that's where they get this from. Jot and tittles. That's how you say it today. That there's no cross on a T or a dot and an I that was taken away from the law to all be fulfilled. Meaning every last punctuation on the law needs to be there. Keep reading.
Till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so.
So like the Christian Catholic Church, right? That they teach men you don't need to keep God's laws, right? You can break the commandments. It's all good, right? Keep reading. Let's see what the Messiah himself has to say about that. Read.
He shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
Why aren't they being called great for doing that? Because according to the Christian Catholic doctrine, you teaching men that they don't have to keep the law is a good thing. In their teachings, you should be called great in the kingdom of heaven. But the Messiah is saying that you're going to be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. Keep reading.
But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
So now, the people that are doing the law and teaching the law, these are the people that the Messiah himself just testified would be called great in the kingdom of heaven. These men and women out here that are out here trying to wake our nation up, right? These soldiers are out here on the highways and byways, putting out this work on the streets. These are the ones that are going to be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Keep reading.
Ye have heard, well, so it's like, for I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees.
All right, so the righteousness, right? That word for righteousness, when you break it down in the Greek, it goes back to talking about divine laws, right? The divine laws in the Bible are talking about the Torah laws. Those are the only divine laws given. They were given from inception and carried out from the beginning to end, right? Somebody get me Revelations 14 and 12. The divine laws, these are what's were taught and followed by the Pharisees, right? And somebody get me Philippians 3 and 5, right? So we can just see something real quick with the Pharisees. I just want to touch on that real quick. Because the Messiah is saying, unless your righteousness exceeds that righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, you have to understand, he's saying you have to be more righteous than them, right? But according to the Christian Catholic doctrine, they were the worst people in the world. They weren't. You have to understand contextual understanding, right? There's individuals. Some Pharisees were off. Some Pharisees were not. Some people kept these laws. Some people didn't. You have to understand these types of things, right? There was wicked men in Israel, and there were people that strive to be righteous in Israel at almost every given time in history, right? There were at least one man left in Israel that didn't bow the knee to Baal. You get what I'm saying? There were always a remnant that always want to strive for the Most High God. Even when all hope seems lost, there's always somebody out there that keeps that faith in the Most High, and they're always rewarded for it. But let me get Philippians 3 and 5 so we can touch on the Pharisees real quick.
Con, this book of Philippians chapter 3. So like
3 and 5.
3 verse 5.
Come.
And it says, circumcised in the 8th day of the stock of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, and Hebrew of Hebrews, as touching the law, a Pharisee.
Paul is saying he's a Pharisee. So you have to be like Paul, or if not even better than Paul, to enter the kingdom. Let's see what Paul says. Keep reading.
Concerning zeal, persecuting the church, touching the righteousness which is in the law, blameless.
So Paul is testifying, saying he's the Pharisees and blameless in the law. Meaning you need to start striving to be blameless in the law as well, because the Messiah is saying, unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the Pharisees and scribes, you're in trouble. So start keeping these law, statutes, commandments, and be repentant, right? Every day repent. You might not be aware you committed a sin, right? But if you're in the habit of constantly praying and worshiping and communicating with the Most High and trying to sanctify yourself internally, right? It'll start to manifest itself externally. So you get in the habit of constantly trying to repent and seek the Most High's forgiveness and His mercy, right? Because you will always be cleansing yourself, meaning upon His arrival, you will be in a state that if you have this type of habit of cleansing yourself, upon His arrival, His second coming, you're going to find yourself keeping that same habit where you're ritually, spiritually trying to keep yourself pure and clean up for Him, right? So when He comes and no man knows the hour, but when He just shows up, if you had this habit of always trying to keep the law, what's going to happen when He shows up? He's going to find you keeping that habit you've always had. So if you have a sinful habit, He's going to pop up when you're being caught in sin, right? That's your habit. It's just what you normally do. But if you have a habit when you're keeping these law, statutes, and commandments, and He comes back, He's going to find you doing what you habitually do, which is keep the law, statutes, and commandments. You're redeemable, right? So this is what we're teaching and teaching people to strive for, right? Get me I'll get one last precept. Somebody get me Matthew 7:21, right? We're gonna read 7:21 all the way to 23.
This book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 21. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven.
So he that doeth the will of my Father, right? So it's something you have to do. It's not just a belief. It's not just a faith. It's things that you have to do. Keep reading.
Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name?
Trying to justify yourself by your own works, right? Coming up to the Messiah saying, didn't I do this, right? Read.
And in thy name have cast out devils.
Keep reading.
And in thy name done many wonderful works.
Right. So they're trying to earn their righteousness based off the works that they felt like they wanted to do, right? Not the works that was prescribed to them by the Torah law, but the works that they want to do, right? Oh, we celebrated Christmas every year. God never told you to celebrate Christmas every year. You're not going to get no credit for that. We celebrated Easter every year. He never told you to do that. So it's not what you want to do, it's what He commanded you to do, right? So keep reading.
And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity.
Can I get that in the NLT? That's the last verse. I'm going to close out with this. Let me get this last verse, Matthew 7:23 in the NLT cap. Because we have to understand. I'm going to read it as another translation because it's a clear cut what the Messiah was trying to say, right?
What was it again?
Matthew 7:23 in the NLT version. Con. Because that version, so what we also teach, right? We do cross a comparative text, right? We look at other texts. We lean primarily on the KJV, but we look at the text just to see how other people are translating it, and then we make a determination from there, right? So we're not just blind KJV-ist, right? We do comparative text as well.
Right. Hey, that's a good point, Salakia. I had someone come to our comment board last week and just start spewing out how flawed the KJV is, and that we're so wrong, and that all this. Let me tell you, we've been going outside of the KJV just for a long time. What y'all don't realize is that we go into the Hebrew, we go into the Greek. You can go into different translations. We understand that the NIV, they took a lot of scriptures out of it, but have discernment, and it's definitely you could go to different translations, and you'll see it a lot different. So, y'all can see my screen.
So the way it reads, right? Matthew 7:23 in the NLT. But I will reply. We just read. There's the Messiah talking, right? Red letters. Can you scroll back up, Cap? It went down.
Salakia, go ahead.
So Matthew 7:23. This should be red letters, right? But I will reply. I never knew you. Get away from me, you who break God's laws.
Bam.
There's no. So this is. We can go to different comparative texts and different translations, but it's not going to change the fact. It's not going to support any false doctrines. As much as you try to manipulate these texts and use different manuscripts and different translations to teach false narratives, even if we go into these false and misleading translations, we can still pull the truth out enough in that same translation to destroy your doctrine. And in whatever Bible version you want to bring out, it doesn't really make a difference. We're going to show you habitually, red letters, Old Testament, New Testament, that there's one teaching. You can try to paraphrase it whatever you want. You can try to misconstrue the text however you want. It's going to constantly teach one resounding message, right? And it's for the children of Israel to come back to these law, statutes, and commandments, to come back to the faith in Hamashiach Yahushua, to come back to the understanding that you're a child of the Most High God, you're a child of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, an Israelite, right, by birth, and to come back to the nation. And that's the only way we can get out of this captivity that we're in, called Babylon the Great, which people like to call Western civilization, and we're in the great city of Babylon, which is called America. So with that, somebody want to bring something else out? Somebody got anything?
Come on, I got a precept.
Come bring it out, King.
Come on. Ezekiel chapter 18. Chapter 18, verse 32. Good. Verse 31. It says, cast away from you all your transgressions, whereby ye have transgressed, and make you a new heart, a new spirit. For why will ye die, O house of Israel? For I have no pleasure in the death of him that dieth, saith the Lord God. Wherefore turn yourselves and live ye.
Con. So that's just another precept. Actually, read that same chapter, King. Go to verse 28.
Come on, verse 28. Because he considereth the turneth away from all his transgressions that he have committed, he shall surely live and shall not die.
So what this same, and I love you that you brought this precept out, King. It just showing you, right, that you have to turn away from your transgressions. Even Ezekiel was teaching this from the beginning, and the Messiah is still forcing the same understanding. You have to turn away from the transgressions. You have to stop sinning and come back to the Most High God, man. Does anybody else have anything?
I got a precept.
Come, bring it out.
This is Matthew 25, start at verse 40. And the king shall answer and say unto them, verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Then shall he say unto them on the left hand, depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. So, I mean, that's going into, of course, it can go for the heathens, but also Israel can also be like somewhat spiritual devils, as far as like scoffing at the word, not wanting to keep the commandments. Well, Yahushua just said, ye are cursed. You're gonna be in the everlasting fire. You're gonna be thrown into that lake of fire with the devil and his angels. So, you know, as you do unto your brethren, you do unto the Most High. So, you know.
Con. And that lake of fire is Babylon the Great. When you read the scriptures and you get into Revelations, you understand that you don't want to. It's funny when you hear racists say, "Get out of our country, go back to whatever." Right? Little do they know they can have this country. It's about to be a smoldering pile of ash. You can keep this. We're trying to go back home to Yasharallah, Jerusalem, Israel. That's where we're trying to go. We'll leave here gladly, but we have to take our brothers with us. We can't leave our brothers behind. So we got to go out every weekend, every day, every chance we get, and bring in many of our brothers and call them and bid them to this wedding, so we can all get out of here. It can't be just one or two of us, or one camp and two camps. It has to be the nation that has to get out of here. So that's why we out here. We labor diligently in this truth and do this work, trying to reach, trying to teach. We like to say reach one, teach one, right? So we hop on this platform. We try to reach as many brothers and sisters as we can. And we actually support, man, just like, subscribe, share, give a thumbs up, whatever you got to do to support this content. Or if you want to give a tithe or alms, man, feel free. Reach out to the YouTube or Facebook page, and we can set that up as well. But with that, I want to say, give all praise, honor, and glory to the Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Ruach Kadash. We are No Cap, Nation of Kings and Priests, and with that, I want to say Shalom.
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 Come.
Shalom, no cap.